I am serving in my second term. I chair the Transportation and Environment Committee and also serve on the Economic Development Committee. Before being elected to the council, I used to run a small after-school program called Gandhi Brigade Youth Media that worked throughout Montgomery County with mostly underprivileged youth, a lot of immigrant kids, a lot of black and brown kids, and we taught them digital media skills so that they could share their advocacy, share their voice and their passion, and turn it into digital media. And they won film festivals around the country talking about racial justice, talking about criminal justice, talking about food at school, right? They are high school students after all. And so it was a wonderful melding of nonprofit, community building, youth activism. And the reason that I was able to do that work with them, digital media work, was because prior to that, for 12 years, I was a journalist. I worked at CNN for 12 years. And it was wonderful. I covered Congress, covered presidential campaigns, worked in DC. And it was while I was working at CNN, walking to the Silver Spring Metro Station day in and day out, that I started learning about Montgomery County. And it was essentially, as I was walking down East-West Highway, trying to figure out how to safely cross the road with all the cars going back and forth on Georgia Avenue, Colesville Road, East-West Highway, I thought to myself, I know how Congress works, I know how the federal government works, but who do I talk to about fixing my sidewalks and installing pedestrian safety measures? So I worked with my community. We got together at a coffee shop. They made me the president of this new civic association. And 16 years later, I'm chair of the Transportation Committee. And it is an honor and privilege to be in my second term serving all of you as an at-large member of the council. And so 2 years ago, I was elected by my colleagues to be president of the council. It was a brand new council. We had gone from 9 members to 11 members, which was my initiative, recognizing that all across America, there were efforts to stymie democracy, suppress people's voices, discount the vote in certain areas. And I said, Montgomery County, we don't do that. We want to support everyone's voice. We want to make sure that everyone's vote is counted. And in the 30 years that we have had 9 members of the council, our population had increased by 50%, 50. So it was my initiative to increase the size of the council to better represent our growing and diverse Montgomery County. And so all of you, the voters of Montgomery County, approved the charter ballot initiative 2-1, and we went from 9 members to 11 members. And now we have the most diverse council ever. We have 2 black members, 2 Latino members, our very first Asian American Pacific Islander member. I am still the only openly LGBTQ plus member, and better yet, it's a female majority. And so it is an honor to serve with all of my colleagues, the most diverse group, representing the most diverse place in the country. If you did not know, 4 of the 10 most diverse communities in the country are here in Montgomery County: Germantown, Rockville, Silver Spring, and Gaithersburg. 4 of the 10 most diverse places are here in Montgomery County. And last year, we were honored with the distinction of the most religiously diverse community in the entire country. It's beautiful. It's a testament to all of you. I see it here, and I see it throughout our community. But we know now more than ever that our diversity is at risk. It is trying to be ripped apart. People are being taken. They are being put on planes. They are being put in jail. And as of last night, there may or may not have been a flight to Venezuela trying to deport our neighbors. Thank you to the federal judiciary for stopping it, right? But our way of life here in Montgomery County is at risk. And that's what I wanted to talk with you about. I started noticing this 2 years ago when, even under President Biden, the effects of the first Trump term and forgive me if I'm getting political, but I think we're among friends here, literally. I think that after that first Trump term, people were not going back in the genie's bottle. And so what I did as council president was create the anti-hate task force here in Montgomery County, recognizing there was an increase in hate and violence here in Montgomery County, the most diverse place, the most religiously diverse place, but not immune to hate. And so I worked with our police department and asked them for all the incidents of hate and bias in our community. And they do an annual report, and there are 6 demographics here in Montgomery County that are most at risk, who are the most victimized of hate and violence. And these 6 groups are the LGBTQ+, Asian American Pacific Islander, our Black African American community, our Latino immigrant community, our Muslim community, and our Jewish community. And as a gay Jew myself, don't go on my Twitter feed, because you will see all the hate that is out there for individuals like me and for individuals like some of you as well. And so with these 6 different groups, I brought together some leaders, and we spent the better part of about 9 months working through the issues that affect them. Because as a journalist and now as an elected official, I didn't want to tell people what they should be feeling. I wanted to hear from them how they feel and how we as government leaders can help them. And as you can imagine, within the 6 different groups, there were a lot of variances as to how people wanted to be heard. There was a lot of initiative and effort to improve our police department and improve community policing. And we hear that, and we're working towards that. Particularly within the Asian American community, they told us that they prefer not to actually report incidents of hate. They feel uncomfortable going to the police. So they wanted some other ways of communicating, and we've created additional channels so that they feel safe in reporting incidents. And so we're continuing to work through that, and we've been doing that through the budget process and within governmental reforms as well. But I want you to know we are making progress, but it's hard. It's really hard these days. I don't know how often you're turning on the TV or opening up one of your news apps, but it is a series of heartaches. At times I want to throw my phone, right? It's tough. But I want you to know that here in Montgomery County, we are doing everything we can to protect our federal workers, to protect our contractors, and to continue spreading love and light so that everyone feels welcome in our community, regardless of the color of your skin, regardless of where you pray, who you love, how you identify, the language you speak. That's how we support our diversity. That's how we support each other. And it is emblematic of this room and the 3 different faith communities and the communities that are not even in here, but I know are part of our broader Montgomery County, Sandy Spring only community. And so I just wanted to come and share with you that we are working hard. And yeah, there are sometimes disagreements within our family here in Montgomery County. There are budgetary issues. Some people don't like a sidewalk, right? And we're not immune to that. But at our core, we are compassionate. And we need to keep that in our hearts, because I think one of the worst things I have seen as an elected official here in Montgomery County is people taking their anger out in a way that might be more befitting Capitol Hill. This is not MAGA versus Montgomery County. What I actually see are Montgomery County Democrats attacking Montgomery County Democrats for some things that might not be befitting of us. And one of the things I tell my colleagues all the time is we can disagree, but let's not be disagreeable. And so whether we disagree about sidewalks, about a stop sign, about housing in our community, another hot topic around here. I hope we all enter this public discussion, whatever the topic might be, with our eyes open and our hearts full, recognizing we can have good conversation about the future of our county, but hopefully recognize we're all here to make our community better. Because the last thing that I want here in Montgomery County, and especially the politics of Montgomery County, is to see what's happening on Capitol Hill. We have to be our better angels. And I know you're all here because you believe that too. And so I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being who you are, being part of the communities that you are, and allowing me into this space to talk with you about the Montgomery County we have now and the Montgomery County we want in the future. Jonathan, you want to do some Q&A or open it up for a little bit? Because I know everyone has busy days ahead of them.
I think it would be wonderful to open it up a little bit. I'm kind of assuming you can handle your own Q&As, but if they get too rowdy, let me know and we'll come back up here. But thank you for your time. Oh, he is Evan Glass, who is an at-large council member on the Montgomery County Council. And I thought I would take advantage of my position here and ask the first question, as it pertains to an issue that has becoming very near and dear to a lot of people in this room just in the last month or 6 weeks. And it's namely what the county is able to do, or what you would suggest others do, to help support federal workers who are anxious about their position, or former federal workers who no longer have a position. And I think we're all deeply curious about, I think across our congregations, deeply curious about what we may be able to do to help our neighbors in that regard.
Thank you for that first question, Jonathan. So first and foremost, what Donald Trump is doing to the federal workforce is outright wrong and illegal. Full stop. It is illegal. And the courts are doing the best they can. At least I have faith in the courts that they will continue doing the best they can to correct the situation. Here in Montgomery County, I've been criticized on social media in particular for talking about our federal workers and for calling out Trump and for calling out the enablers in Congress and saying that what they're doing is illegal and wrong. And people said, stick to Montgomery County. You're a council member. You're not a congressman. But the reason I talk about it is because we have 70,000 federal employees who live in Montgomery County. 70,000. This is a local issue. It affects all of our neighbors. When I'm walking my dogs in the morning, the number of people who've already told me they've lost their jobs at USAID, at NOAA, they're worried about their jobs at NIH or at FDA. It's real. And I know you know people who are being affected too. And thankfully, we have people like Jamie Raskin who are there defending democracy. I was with him last Saturday. We were at NIH holding a rally, and Senator Van Hollen was there. Hundreds of people. It was wonderful. And I'm going to use a line from Congressman Raskin. Congressman Raskin says, "A rally a day keeps the fascists away." Don't give me credit, give him credit, but it's true. And I know that the work that he's doing, and Senator also Brooks and Van Hollen and the rest of our federal delegation are doing the best they can. But being the minority party is hard. And we saw what just happened on Friday night with the continuing resolution. There are no good choices here. It's easy to beat up on people for doing something we don't like, especially when they're friends and people that we want to support, but there are no easy decisions here. And so what we're doing here locally is we're preparing. We have done an incredible job over the last few years, dare I say decade, building up our social safety net to make sure that if anybody falls, we catch them. We have an incredible food assistance program for anybody who's hungry. We have an incredible rental assistance program for anyone who's worried about how they're going to pay their rent. And during my first term on the council, I was the council's point person on homelessness during COVID. And I introduced in the first few weeks of COVID, when people were losing their jobs and they were saying, we don't know how we're going to pay our rent, I introduced a $2 million special appropriation to increase funding for our rental assistance programs. That $2 million grew to $100 million. Thank you, President Biden, and thank you, Democrats in the General Assembly who provided additional assistance. And that $100 million during COVID saved about 30,000 families here in Montgomery County. A lot of that money is gone now. And so we're back to our general operating budget, but we still got to make sure that the ties on that social safety net are strong. And if you know anybody who is at risk of becoming homeless, is worried about paying their rent, reach out. People who are hungry, reach out. And the county and the state are updating some of our jobs to make sure that people who are federal employees can easily apply. And so if anybody needs assistance, I'll give you my cards. I don't want to call anybody out, and you don't need to speak for either yourselves or other loved ones that you might know who need help, but we're doing everything we can. But it's important to keep in mind, we are not Congress. We can't unilaterally stop Trump. But what we can do here locally is make sure everybody is safe and protected, and that's what we're going to be doing, particularly through our budget. Here, I'm going to, well, let me go around this way, and then we'll come back to Zoom. Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, one of the pieces of that safety net that I'm particularly concerned about because of the work I do is Medicaid. And the number, especially of children that will lose all their health services if the cuts that are being discussed at the federal level go through. And I'm wondering what the capacity is of Montgomery County and the state to deal with that.
Yeah, so healthcare for those who need it. I will start by saying Montgomery County has one of the best local healthcare departments. Our Department of Health and Human Services. It is better than almost every other county in the country. The budget for Health and Human Services is hundreds of millions of dollars. We had Obamacare here in Montgomery County before there was Obamacare. That's what we've been doing over decades, right? And so we have a wonderful network of community healthcare providers where a lot of this work is done for those who are uninsured and underinsured. My big worry is at the federal level when they pull back, not if they pull back. Medicare, Medicaid services, that means less money is going to the state of Maryland. And that means less money will flow down to us. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I don't know what the budget implication will be. But right now, we have the best healthcare support service. So if you know anyone who is not getting healthcare that they need, shame on them. We have healthcare for them. There's plenty to go around. We just have to make sure that it's still there. And we might have some tough conversations. I'll share with you, maybe getting ahead of some other questions. We had a conversation with MCPS about a month ago. And I asked MCPS, how much money do we get from the federal government? Let me be more specific. How much money do we get from the Department of Education? That was my question. For Title I, which go to our most impoverished schools, schools where kids aren't eating at home, where their parents aren't speaking English at home, and school is their refuge. It is their lifeline. You know how much money we're getting? $112 million from the Department of Education. So begs the first question, what happens when the Department of Education goes away? I don't know. What happens if that money goes away? Those are tough conversations. $112 million. And the other parts of the budget, we get about $200 million in federal support. Some of it through healthcare, Medicaid, Medicare, that comes through the state, some of it for transportation, and other areas as well. but we get a lot of federal support outside of the 70,000 federal employees who are our neighbors. It's scary. I'm watching. We're doubling down. The system exists now, and we just got to make sure that it continues to exist. So I appreciate the work that you're doing. Yeah.
I can often use a former teacher voice, but I just wanted you to know, many of you know that I worked at Blair High School forever and ever, amen, as the media specialist. And I'm going to tell you what drove me out of it. Being yelled at by students who were objecting to the books on the shelves of the library, being yelled and screamed at by students who did not want books about gay people or Black people or whatever people. I can tell you that one of the things that absolutely broke me was the citizens' request to give me the date I purchased certain books, the purchase order number, and packing slip of books that I'd received 2, 3, 4, 5 years earlier. How many copies did I have? The hate was brewing from the outside, from parent groups, some of whom are possibly even on some of the groups that you measured at the outset or mentioned at the outset. I know that one group that might not have been represented, but in my heart should be, which is people who have disabilities. I am a parent of a visibly and intellectually disabled adult child, and I know that they don't always get a free pass in society. So when we talk about countering hate, what can we do as a community to make sure that we bring young people in to offices at a very young age and even into office at a very young age to make sure that everybody in adulthood knows that our kids are facing these things at school? In particular, I used to do big exhibits a couple times a year, and one of my last big exhibit was a memorial of the Holocaust. And I was shocked that even at Blair, my exhibit, that it took me weeks to set up, there were swastikas inked on the exhibit pieces at Blair, some defacement other than the swastikas, and a comment board for, you know, how does the Holocaust and how does what was going on in Ukraine and Ethiopia and Tigray. I was shocked at the comments that were posted up on that board, even at Blair, who is about the most liberal outpost of studenthood probably in the country.
Right.
So I'm telling you, it's there, it's real, it's not reported. It's not reported, but it's there. And our kids are living it, they're breathing it, and they're breathing it out.
I appreciate your time at Blair and working with you on some of the programs that we talked about. And I know that while she was there, Principal Renee Johnson was a stalwart for keeping everybody together, keeping everybody in line, and making sure that community was cohesive. I have concerns about the state of MCPS, which is a whole nother conversation. I think we need more transparency. We need more oversight. We need more collaboration. I'll put that aside for now. The level of hate is real. And as a former journalist, now as an elected official, I am a First Amendment absolutist. The same rights that afford someone the right to protest on whatever issue they want is the same right to read whatever book they want. And if you don't want to read, if you don't want those books read to your kid, then don't go to Montgomery County Public Schools. That's it. There's a Supreme Court case that's coming up about this. Are you all familiar with the Supreme Court case? So I'll fill you in. 2 years ago, there were some principals and parents in a few schools. There were 211 Montgomery County public schools. There were about 3 schools that objected to elementary school students reading a book that talked about Johnny's 2 mommies. Another book talked about Susie's uncle who's gay and dresses his dog up in funny outfits. They didn't like these books that have nothing to do about sex. The book simply acknowledged that members of the LGBTQ plus community exist. They objected, and the school system said they can opt out if they don't want to read those books. When people started learning that individuals were opt out because they didn't like the fact there was a gay character in a book, it got elevated. Lawsuits ensued, and it is now going to be before the Supreme Court in April. Now, the reason, I'll give you a little history here. The reason it got elevated to the place it did was because there is a state law that says parents can opt their kids out of certain books on sex education. And someone within MCPS leadership misunderstood a gay character as sex education, which is why they reversed course and lawsuits ensued. I'll tell you this, I'm going to be down at the Supreme Court in April, standing up for Montgomery County, saying that everyone deserves to be in literature. That's what it comes down to. You cannot be the most diverse community in the country. You cannot be the most religiously diverse community in the country and start saying that certain people are other, that they don't deserve to be in books, and that people don't deserve to read about them. That is not who we are. And so I appreciate you raising that. But Montgomery County, once again, will be making national news. And with this Supreme Court, I don't know where this goes. I'm a little scared. But thank you for the work that you've been doing. And we got more work to do on MCPS, and happy to talk with you or anybody else. We got 1, 2, and then 3, and then we'll go online. Okay. Sorry. Following the mic.
Hi. My name is Linda Seep. I'm a member of this meeting.
Closer.
Closer?
There
Can
you
you
go.
hear me?
Yep.
I said, my name is Linda Seep. I'm a member of this Sandy Spring Friends meeting. I feel like I can call you by your first name because of our alignment, which to me is precious. I have 2 questions and a comment. How can we help? Tell us. Sorry. I apologize. I'm not used to this. I want to know how we can help, and I want always for us to be active in the helping, not sitting. That's number 1. Number 2, we are planning on March 28th, this is for your information, to start a support group for federal workers and contractors here down the hall in room 101, which will then run every Friday at 1 o'clock. Tell whoever you want. We can't handle thousands of people. This is not an auditorium, but we would like to be able to be of service to those people. And lastly, in my view, you're risking your life, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. So first, how can you help? Don't be silent. We know that silence is complicity. Be mindful of who you're talking to. And when there are rallies and events and opening your doors for federal workers, that's what you need to continue doing. Lead with your heart. I'll tell you how many times I've stopped that angry tweet or that reply to a comment on Facebook when someone is being negative towards me. Again, don't go on my social media. But I try to be my better angel. That is my guiding light. And I'll share with you a story. So I got elected in 2018, first openly LGBTQ council member. We were getting ready for Pride the next year, and I said, you know, a lot of people go into DC, they go up to Frederick, they go to Baltimore. We don't have any Pride events here in Montgomery County. And so I started organizing Pride events at Glen Echo. We now have some at Olney Theater, right? All across the county. I wanted to start by raising the Pride flag in Rockville. Just like other states, you know, raise the Pride flag over the Capitol and city halls do that. Let's start with raising the Pride flag in Rockville. Everyone came out, the county executive, all the department heads, all of my colleagues, Congressman Raskin's team, everyone was out there. We raised the Pride flag, it was wonderful. And then the hate started. The tweets, the calls, the emails. It got so bad in my office that we stopped answering our phone for 3 days. No joke. 3 days, the phone went automatically to voicemail. I'm an elected official. I'm wearing this jacket because I got the stab wounds, right? I can take it. But my staff signed up to help the community, not to answer the phone and get death threats, to get hatred, to get all levels of nasty that you all can imagine. And so after 3 days, we turned back our phones, went back to normal business. And the next year, what did we do? We raised the Pride flag. And did we get calls? Yes, we did. And then what did we do? The next year, we raised the Pride flag. And again and again. And you know how many phone calls we got last year? None. We got no phone calls, which means either they're getting lazy or they know we're not going to stop because we're on the right side. And we're going to continue being on the right side of calling out hate and being our better angels. And so whether or not it's LGBTQ rights or dismantling the vestiges of slavery as they exist throughout our government, we're going to continue doing the right thing. And so any action that you all want to take is good. Just keep being our better angels and try not to get into the ditch with them, because that way we all end up dirty. And you can always call me Evan, by the way. Yeah.
I'm John Salzberg, Clerk of the Peace Committee here at the meeting. Freedom of speech is under attack, and the sanctity of universities and colleges is under attack. Mahmoud Kahil, who led the protests in Colombia last year, advocating for human rights for Palestinians, did not advocate for terrorism or violence. He has a green card. His wife is a U.S. citizen. 2 nights ago, ICE came to their home, and he was arrested. And he was detained, and he was flown off to Louisiana. Why was he flown to Louisiana? Why was he arrested, first of all? Now, there are many other people with this who were subject to this. And President Trump, in responding to this arrest, he said, well, there'll be many more of them. In addition, the U.S. Department of Education is investigating 60 universities, perhaps 1 or 2 in Montgomery County, for all we know. And just as they found with Columbia University, with respect to Columbia University, they put a freeze on $400 million that the university in loans or grants was slated to receive. Now they're opening up some negotiations, but they're making rather severe requirements.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm writing to you, sir.
Well, First Amendment is under attack. And what we just have to keep doing is using our voices to push back. And one thing that I'm doing is actually on Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday, I'm introducing a resolution at the county council recommitting our support for diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm introducing a resolution on Tuesday because despite what happens, we cannot give up. I don't know what's going to happen when Trump, Moms for Liberty, and a bunch of other people who follow Montgomery County, because half of them live around here. That's how they know about the book ban and have elevated it all the way to the Supreme Court. I don't know what they're going to do, but I know that this is who we are, and we can't sit idly by, and we need to continue leading with our hearts and making sure that our diverse community is held tight. And so if you are so interested in doing more after Tuesday, after this resolution is introduced, write my colleagues, let them know that you support it, share it, and let folks know that we are taking this step as Montgomery County to push back against the policies down at the White House on Capitol Hill. And then you know, with regard again to First Amendment and people being detained, I mean, we just got to keep pushing back, and hopefully the courts will step in at some point. It's okay. I don't need the mic. Okay.
Jackie Day of Sharky Day.
Yeah. She.
Jackie, can you ask your question yourself?
Yes, I will. Thank you very much. This is Jackie Day from Sharp Street United Methodist Church. And first, I'd like to thank Councilman Glass for your commitment and your dedication to all people in Montgomery County. It was brought to my attention on Thursday evening of a major concern in Brookville, Maryland, about a mile north of Albany. And the concern was that 2 drug houses for rehab are being placed near Greenwood Elementary School in Brookville. The articles I read stated that the council approved of these 2 houses. My questions are 2. 1, what thought process went into making this decision of having the drug rehab houses in the close vicinity of the elementary school? 2, it stated that the houses will consist of 6 men each. Will these men be wearing the ankle location bracelets? Being that I live 2 blocks from the school on Gold Mine Road, this is a concern not only for the children and the staff of the school, but also my community. Thank you for addressing this question.
Thank you, Jacqueline. And I don't know if everyone is aware of the situation, but Jacqueline summarized it very well. So thank you. So I have been getting a lot of correspondence on this. And Hope on my team lives in Brookville. And so she has been filling me in. And here's what I can tell you. This is the state of Maryland that has selected this site and is opening this facility. It is not a county facility. I did not vote on it. I've had no option to weigh in on it. What I would encourage from all of you is to write your District 14 delegation, namely Senator Zucker and your 3 delegates, and share their thoughts with you. I have spoken with your District Councilmember, Don Ludke, who's been working really hard to communicate with the community and has also re-emphasized that this is the state of Maryland wants to do, not Montgomery County. So happy to talk offline. If you want to send me an email, we can help coordinate with you. But the best people to speak to are your state delegates and senator, because they're the ones who can make that change. And so Monday, the 27th, Hope from my team just said there's a community meeting. We'll stick around and provide with more information for you if you were interested.
Thank you.
I probably don't need this. I have a loud voice. One of the my question really is almost a statement, but it seems to me the cultural diversity of our county is a two-edged sword in terms of, you know, we're talking about hate crimes and discrimination because there are cultural conflicts, and these especially precipitate themselves in schools because this is where people of different ethnicities come into contact with each other. And I'm wondering, how are you addressing that? Because my thought is that probably the schools are the primary place where it spreads and the conflicts exist.
Thank you for that. And it is largely our schools. When the Anti-Hate Task Force did its work over many, many months, we identified areas of the county where there was room for improvement. I mentioned Montgomery County Police Department. There was also within our public information office ways to communicate with different communities. There's now actually an online portal where people can anonymously report a hate crime that occurred, because in case you didn't want to be more public with it. And it used to be you had to go into a police station. So we fixed that and streamlined that process. But a bulk of the concerns we heard from members of the community were within Montgomery County Public Schools. And I know that with this new superintendent, they are taking a look at how they follow various procedures, how they educate not only the students, but the teachers as well. There is some reluctance among some educators to be open-minded. I'll put it that way. And so there is more work to do. But from my perspective, we know that kids mirror the actions that they learn at home. It's true with racism. It's true with anti-Semitism. It's true with homophobia and all the other isms that are out there. But also, hate towards people who have different opinions is learned at home. And so I ask all of you, when you're watching MSNBC, CNN, and if you watch Fox, my heart's with you, right? Be mindful of who's in the room. Be mindful of the actions that others are following. When you're yelling at each other, when you're shutting down conversation, when you're making civil discourse uncivil, that manifests itself in our schools. And that is something that I try to lead by on the council. For any of you who watch the council, bless your heart, we can have disagreements. I don't make any of it personal. We can disagree about whether that building should be 3 stories, 6 stories, or not be built at all. And those are the disagreements we have at the council. But when that disagreement's over, let's grab lunch. Beer's even better, but let's be our better selves. And that's the type of behavior that we need to model to our kids. And that's something that can only be done outside of government. So please imbue that in who you are. It goes back to being our better angels. I know it sounds hokey, but it's real. That is how we resist. We can disagree, we can protest, we can write, we can vote. But the minute we get in the mud, it's done. And it's a downward spiral. And that's what worries me the most, to be honest.
Mine may be more of a federal issue. A graduate of Blair, and she went on to complete at Montgomery College and Catholic University. She's from Senegal, and she's been relying on NIH to treat her Cushing's disease. she got a call from her physician about 2 weeks ago saying they could no longer treat her due, I assume, to the cuts at NIH. They told her she needs to find another provider. Do you have any suggestions?
If you want to connect your friend to my office, we can certainly work within the Department of Health and Human Services. There are a number of different agencies as part of that social safety net. Not only do we have nonprofit networks for every demographic group, Latino healthcare, Black healthcare, Asian American healthcare. We actually also have a Black physicians network that receives about $1 million to help make sure that physicians are adequately paid to help people who might not be able to pay, right? So there's a huge network out there, and I'm happy to talk with you, Kathy, offline. Another issue that is near and dear to my heart, that I have friends and loved ones who are living with HIV, who are worried that the Trump administration is going to stop production of antiviral medication, which is literally a death sentence for them. And so people are stockpiling. They're trying to figure it out. People overseas who I have friends are trying to figure that out as well. And so the host of issues affecting healthcare and our livelihood is real. And if you know anyone who needs help, is worried about the healthcare that they currently get going away, reach out.
Hello, Marcus Barber here. I'd like to hear your practical thoughts about organizations that are trying to help food insecure families. For several years, I've been volunteering at a small pantry. And we distribute the food at schools, hospitals, and churches. And the discussion is, what do we do when ICE agents with flak jackets and guns show up with administrative orders masquerading as warrants to those members of the community we're trying to help? So what do we do? Do we call you? Do we call the cops? Do we just roll over and say, okay, you got us? What do we do?
Thank you, Marcus, and thank you for volunteering your time with one of our food banks here in Montgomery County. All of the food that we provide is given without asking for immigration status. And let me go one step further. There is no service in Montgomery County that is conditioned on immigration status. You could get help with anything, and we will give it to you, right? So no immigration status required for any assistance. I just got a briefing on Friday, by the way, from our Food Resilience Network, talking about the potential cuts that might be coming down the line, from SNAP benefits to the National Capital Area Food Bank, which is the hub. Most of the food banks in Montgomery County and the DC region get their food from the National Area Capital Food Bank, whose budget is being cut. They are losing some federal subsidies. That's going to affect us. But it goes back to the social safety net that we've built up. And if there was ever a glimmer of hope and light that came out of the pandemic, it was our hubs that we created. During pandemic, we realized people weren't coming to any of the food banks, and it was really hard to distribute food. And I'll share with you, I'll digress for one sec. During the pandemic, a lot of our senior care providers were saying, hey, Evan, we're not operating. Seniors aren't coming to our daycare services. They're not asking for the help that they need because they're stuck at home. What can we do? And we started working on that. And at the same time, the food banks came to me and said, Evan, people aren't coming to the food banks Staff's not coming to the food banks, but we got warehouses full of food that we know people need. So being the doer that I am, I said, hey, we have these senior care facilities with vans that normally pick people up. We have food hubs that have food that they need people to get the food to. Let's combine efforts. And so basically the senior care facilities started loaning their vans to the hubs and to the food banks so we could distribute that, right? It was in the moment ingenuity. Fast forward, we now have this hub system throughout Montgomery County, and there are about 6 or 7 hubs that are hyper focused on their neighborhoods. There's one in Aspen Hill, there's one in Up County. Those two tend to be the biggest. And we provide the support for them, no questions asked. As this plays out, we're going to see how much more support is needed. That is something that's a hot topic right now in Rockville. On Friday, you may or may not have heard, the county executive introduced his budget. It's a $7.65 billion budget, and it increases support for food, for healthcare, for a lot of services that we're trying to get ahead of whatever happens in this Trump administration. And yes, it includes a 3.5% property tax increase. We can have a different conversation about that one. But what he has at least done is recognize that there are going to be changes afoot, and we have to do everything we can to protect our neighbors. So let's continue this conversation. I'm happy to talk with members of that food bank, and let's just stay in touch, okay? Thank you. Where's the other one? Oh, it's over. Sorry. And I got about 10 more minutes. Okay.
Hi, I'm Reverend Janice Preston from Olive Branch Community Church. And my question kind of mirrors the gentleman before me. What do we do if ICE shows up at the church?
Sorry. Yeah.
What do we do? How do we protect those? Because we don't ask for immigration status when someone comes in. We invite them in to worship. So if we are presented with that scenario, what do we do? How do we respond?
Thank you for re-upping the second part of that question. Important to know, Montgomery County does not cooperate with ICE. Full stop. So what that means is ICE and Donald Trump have requested that local law enforcement serve as immigration enforcement. We do not do that. Now there's some caveats. ICE exists. They have an office in Baltimore. There's about 24 or so personnel who work there. They work there now. They worked there during President Biden and President Obama as well. The office is not new. What they have been doing, I've been told, is going around the state and apprehending individuals who have committed serious crimes. And that is within their federally mandated jurisdiction. There have been a lot of things posted on social media you might have seen, particularly in the first 2 weeks of President Trump assuming office. My colleagues and I have seen all of that on social media. People share it with me. Most, if not all of it, was not real. Or it was not in real time. It might have happened years before, or it might have happened in a different location. Misinformation is real, and when we care about our community, we all feel the anxiety. Trust me, every time someone texted it to me and DM'd me and emailed and every other form of communication I have, my heart just kept speeding up. And we're all texting the same people in the county, within the county executive's office, who kept telling us it's not real. I've been told that if ICE was to do a mass event, which they have not done in Montgomery County, but if they were to do it, our police department will likely be given a heads up. And the reason for being given a heads up is so that people aren't calling the police hysterically out of concern, and the police showing up and not knowing the situation and quite possibly opening fire and getting into an even worse situation. That could change. That is ICE telling, ICE expecting to tell us so that they are able to do what they do. We haven't had a big incident yet. I hope we don't have a big incident yet. Whatever ICE is able to do, if they come into your house of worship, if they come into the schools, that was a change by President Trump. We are not expected to help them. If ICE comes to the schools, it is my understanding that they will call Montgomery County Police Department. If ICE goes into your house of worship, please call the Montgomery County Police Department. We're in this strange world of federal law enforcement and local law enforcement. And there are some things that they have the constitutionally granted power to do. It doesn't mean we have to be complicit in those actions. But also just be mindful that not everything that's been shared is happening in real time or happening here. And it makes it even more difficult because I know everyone's sharing these things with me out of love. They want to protect everybody. I get it. And when we've been doing fact checking, we've learned that it's not true. But if something happens to you, I'll give you all my cell phones. Right? That's what you got to do. Thankfully, knock on wood, it hasn't happened yet. My understanding, they have not increased the number of ICE enforcement agents in Maryland. That would probably be the first sign. People have taken pictures saying there's ICE agents here, there, and otherwhere. I've seen those texts. In one instance, it was ICE agents that was actually at a location, but it was 4 years ago, under President Biden here in Montgomery County, right? So let's remain vigilant. Let's remain compassionate, but let's try to communicate quickly. Yeah, maybe last question.
First of all, thank you for all your work on all these fronts, and thank you very much for being here today. It's really informative. My question is regarding, I'm George Peachy with Sandy Spring Meeting. My question is about the incidents of hate and the threats that you've received and all that. Are these mostly, do you know, are these mostly unrelated individuals, or are there groups that are organized?
The incidents of hate mostly are one-offs. There are some exceptions, and the most notable exception was last fall when there were a series of anti-Semitic incidents up and down Old Georgetown Road, where they sprayed swastikas and other slogans on a synagogue, and then went to Bethesda Elementary School and spray painted the sign at Bethesda Elementary School. And then I think they went to Whitman and some other places. They thought they were smart, but on some video camera somewhere, MCPD found who they were, and they were a handful of young people. Yeah. Which gets into a whole nother conversation about juvenile justice and how we do right and educate and correct. Another conversation for another time. But that's been the most coordinated that I've seen. A lot of them are one-offs. A lot of them are by young people, which is probably the worst. And so MCPS, going back to MCPS, they have a restorative justice program where they try not to penalize anybody, but talk through, which is something I know you all are used to, right? Talk through an issue. But I will share with you, there are some issues kids have raised. If you have been word, and then you're sitting in front of that person who has expressed that vitriol to you, who in the course of the process does not express remorse or wrongdoing, where does that go? Legitimate concerns I've heard. But I still believe punishment should not be the first option, right? That shouldn't be. but we need to figure this out. And I'll close by saying there's a lot of things that we need to figure out. I love our community. I love our county. I love all of you for spending your afternoon here talking about how to make our community better. But we have work to do. And I would ask you to first work on ourselves, that as we enter these spaces, we lead with our heart, we lead with our head, we be our better angels, and model the type of public discourse we want to see. Because if we here in Montgomery County, if we as, I'll say, Democrats, progressives, model the behavior on Capitol Hill, we're doomed. We're doomed. And so all the conversations we're having now about all of this, about housing, and yes, we are in a housing crisis here in Montgomery County. And if we want to remain a diverse and welcoming place, we need to create housing to continue welcoming our diversity. And yes, we do have too many incidents of road violence where people keep getting hit and killed. And I know people don't like speed cameras and they might not like some of those stop signs. But a majority of the people who are hit in Montgomery County are Black and brown people. It is about racial justice, safe streets. And yes, we have a climate crisis going on. And Donald Trump is pulling back our national and international climate obligations. So we in Montgomery County are going to continue making our buildings greener and doing other things to support our local ecosystem. There's a lot we do in Rockville. There's a lot I'm passionate about, but I try to engage in a thoughtful, deliberate way where we're able to build consensus, something I know you know all about, and then keep moving forward, right? So I just want to thank you for taking your afternoon to talk with me. I'll stick around for a little bit longer and give you my cards, and Hope will be here, your neighbor in Brookville, who cares extremely passionately about this community, as do I. But as we leave here and enter the world, just be mindful of what's happening down the road, how we are going to continue supporting everybody here in our most diverse community, and how we're going to combat it moving forward, being our better angels. So thank you all very much, and I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing so much time and thought on how we can conduct more activities here. Thank you for our friends at Olive Branch and Sharp Street for joining. We look forward to many more shared events with you. Thank you.
Thanks for watching our video. For more content from Sandy Spring Friends Meeting, click to subscribe.